The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. It is game week. You have made it, Nebraska-UTEP. Welcome to 2024. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, and you will get our starting five shout-outs. We'll tell you where to see us this week, as plenty of road shows on tap with Hail Varsity Radio. And we'll hear from Matt Rhule as his season opening press conference a few hours back. Who's hurt, who's ready to go, how many oars are there you've seen on social media. In the running back room, we'll dissect it all. Tim Verghese going to be with us inside Nebraska and rivals. Not only recruiting on the horizon, but just some outlook from Tim Verghese on Big Red football. Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, another season with Uncle Charlie. What's he think about the D and this squad moving forward? And then Jay Moore with us from Big Red Wrap-Up. Blackshirt Husker NFLer Jay Moore joins us. You're welcome, as always, to get in at 489-1240, 489-1240, 800-825-5865. Can dial us up toll-free or send an email if you like, Chris at hailvarsity.com. Always encouraged to watch the show, like and subscribe. The YouTube channel, Hail Varsity YouTube, and then Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. You can find Elijah on Twitter at Herbal Essence, myself, Chris Schmidt, at Schmidt_radio. Two things. One, fan day over the weekend. Shout out Mr. Ray, our old buddy Paul that calls the show from time to time. His shield on full display, the Blackshirt shield. You've heard Paul call the show before. And pretty cool. Pretty awesome to get it rocking and rolling, as Paul put a lot of work into that. Two, shout out Elijah Herbel for surviving his weekend. It was hot as hell outside. It was probably worse inside Elijah's home. Your thermometer peaked at what?
94 degrees.
So you were trying to sleep in 94-degree heat because the AC was on vacation, but better now.
Well, if there's any HVAC technicians out there, we had some sort of electrical issue with our low pressure and high pressure sensors in the air conditioner. And I only know that because we tried everything else. Given the fact that it was the weekend, my roommate's pretty handy, I'm somewhat handy. We're like, we can get this thing fixed.
You took shop class.
I fixed our heater before when it went out. I fixed the AC before when it went out. I'm like, okay, this isn't going to be an issue. It was an issue. Friday night, it went out, and it wasn't awful because it was running most of the day, but it went out in the evening. Saturday climbs, it's hotter and hotter. We're like, okay, we're going to get this fixed. We do our fix on Saturday that we think is the issue, the compressor. And it wasn't the compressor. So we go out golfing because we think we're going to get back and it's going to be lovely and cool within our house. And we get back and it's hotter and we're like, oh my God.
Go to the bar.
Sunday was brutal. I picked up a shift here just to get some AC for the afternoon.
Well, I'm going to go to work because it's cool.
But I do have the report. The professionals were called in briefly yesterday. Couldn't figure it out yesterday. It sounds like the professionals got it figured out. Shout out to my man Brighton. Got it covered today, and from what I've been told, I am not home right now, but I'm told that the cold air is blowing and we are slowly returning back to normal temperature. So my weekend of hell is over.
So it wasn't quite going across the pond, losing to a former ACC doormat on a last-second kick bad, but it was still uncomfortable.
It was pretty bad. I'm not sure. You ever just been sitting on your couch sweating buckets? Like you leave behind a puddle on your couch just from sitting there?
Yeah, that's usually if Daddy fell asleep on the couch and had Cheeto fingers. I'm serious. Oh my God, this isn't coming out.
See,
it's a white couch. The dog did it.
I haven't sweat that much on the couch since I attempted a dry run at that 999 challenge.
Okay.
Wherever I took down, I think it was 5 hot dogs and 4 beers, and I woke up in a sweat on my couch. That's the closest I've come to my feeling this weekend. But this weekend was tough. But I've been told whenever I get home tonight, we should be close to normal. So crossing my fingers for that. My weekend of hell is over, and it's on to football season.
What's the football equivalent to the 999? We need to come up with a football equivalent for game day, man.
Well, I was gonna say, the football equivalent of your AC going out is going up against like last year's Michigan offense that's going to ground and pound you to oblivion.
Well, I'm talking.
Early on, you're like
shots, beers, food intake, pizza, runza, whatever else you get at the stadium, ice cream, peanuts, Pepsi.
So if you're doing a 999, you could do 9 runzas, 9 of the commemorative sodas, and do that in the first 9 possessions of the game.
How about just 1 quarter challenge? First quarter, 1 runza, 1 soda.
That's easy.
Second quarter, 2 runzas.
Okay, now I see the vision.
3 and then 4.
I see the vision. That's a lot of runzas.
So you're up to 10. 10 runzas in one ball game. And it's not Michigan State weather where you need a parka and 2 gloves like you're Lloyd and Harry in Aspen.
With quick math, that is 10 runzas over the course of 3 hours and change, which, is it possible? I'm sure. Are you going to be having a rough time in the bathroom the next day? I am sure. That's going to be tough. That's way too much cabbage and ground beef to be eaten in one sitting.
Cranax in. Let's tell you where you can see us this week. It's Roadshow Thursday, as we're on the road at the Single Barrel inside the Graduate, 9th and P. Home football Thursdays. Nebraska's playing at 10th and Vine, of course, the old Gray Lady Memorial Stadium on a Saturday or even a Friday. Come see us at the Single Barrel Thursdays during the season. This Friday, going to be out in Gretna, the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, just on the highway there. It's just an incredible, phenomenal patio. The weather is going to be much better Friday. And come enjoy what we're doing and come enjoy a cold cornhead lager and a slice of pie, some Bang Bang or Boom Boom sauce that's legendary with Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Fridays is where we're there this season. And then Saturday, pregame, the weekend edition of Hail Varsity, 11:30 to 1:30. So when we're on and can come see us at the Single Barrel again, 9th and P inside the Graduate this football season. So pretty awesome. Excited to get it rolling. Then Real Red Reaction follows. We'll have our post-game thoughts post Nebraska-UTEP. Let's get our shout-outs going. Let's hear from Matt Rhule as Uncle Jimmy is in Florida State, Georgia Tech. What a way to start the college football season. We'll see if this is going to be a weird season or not, with plenty of upsets. Mr. Erickson is in. Mr. Erickson asked the question, should I be nervous? Rhule looked tired today. I kind of noticed that too, but he got into Rhule mode and was great. 30 minutes, no sweat. Great session with the media. No, I think he's ready, but I think he and the players have put in a ton of work. You're supposed to, but he's done it. They have exhausted themselves getting ready for this 2024 season. NU Grandpa is in. Jeff is here. Justin checks in. Arlo Jr. is in. Jack, good to have you. The other Dave says, happy Monday. The pitter-patter, let's get after it, boys. Aggressively Average is excited it is game week. KG is here. Patrick is in. Larry is here. Black Hills Brennan is excited, says it's game week. Same with NASCAR Eric. Game week, let's bleep and go. Grateful Red is here. Good to have him. Crazy Spider Adventure, Rule of the Day. Part of the Boulder, Peace Treaty, Jeff Snitley. Sorry I'm late. It's game week. Roulade is flowing heavily. You have Cornhusker Koala back in. Great Red Shark is here. Ronnie, good to have you, Ronnie and Sal. Sal is here. Husker Steve, Jacob, and Weston checking in. Cliff from Florida. Big Red Cliff, ready to go. Red Flag Raiola. You all were very silly in calling Raiola a game manager. We were asking the question if that was how Nebraska would treat their 5-star. And the answer is absolutely not. There's no shallow end of the pool for Dylan Raiola. Tim is in. He's asking if he made third team, checking in at 4:02. Life of Lincoln, good to have you. Anonymous asks the question here, and the backup LT is a redshirt freshman walk-on who played tight end in a Class C school. Anonymous, I think that speaks to his athleticism. Fair? Yeah. Elijah, you tweeted out going up against the Seagram.
Yeah.
It's no fun. You got dunked on twice.
Yeah, it was not fun. And I just tied this together today. So we won the game in the Corner State games, but there was this one guy, complete, total athlete, that was just dunking on everybody, myself included.
Good catch.
I mean, I was...
You call him athlete?
Oh, he was an athlete. He was like 6'7" with some hops, and I was like, okay, it's going to be one of those days, huh? And I was matched up one-on-one with him, me being the big guy, and he went to work on me. I eventually did figure out not much of a left hand, force him right, and that really limited his offensive game. But if he got a step in the lane, he was going to put it up, and he was going to yam on you, and I was the victim. And that was the older brother of Nebraska's new backup left tackle, Grant Seagren. His name was Wyatt, and no ill feelings about that game. We won. But yeah, Seagren, I have experience with the family, and the experience was getting dunked on into oblivion.
Well, we'll get more of your shout-outs going. Ryan and Brent, good to have you in. Eat Beef says, not a huge Runza fan. Would be tough for me to take down two of them. So let's just go to Joel Klatt real quick before we hear from Matt Rhule. Joel Klatt checking in. His show earlier today. More love for the Big Red.
Nebraska really should be playing some games in November that have actual legitimate implications for the playoff. If you look at their schedule, they've got Colorado at home. If they can beat them, they likely would be an undefeated team facing Ohio State. And then even if they lose to Ohio State with one loss, they're sitting in that same boat we're talking about Penn State, that you're playing really meaningful games in November.
That's the one where we've sat here in years past and looked at a workable schedule for Nebraska, and then get reality just hit you in the face. Same thing this year. I just believe in him a lot more this year. The whole Matt Rhule year 2 principle is in play, by the way.
Right, because he did it. He's done it.
I mean, general rule of thumb, if you do it at Temple and Baylor, you can probably do it in Lincoln, Nebraska. So how about that whole flip of Dylan Raiola from Georgia to Nebraska? And what was funny about that, you would have loved to hear this reverberating through the South. People in the South were up in arms because money was the deciding factor in that recruitment. I don't know if you're aware. I don't know if you're aware, but scoundrel, I think, was a word I heard thrown around in regard to Matt Rhule in Nebraska. Well, he's going to be a true freshman. He's going to start for them. It reeks of the kind of thing where if you do nothing more than flip your fortune in one-possession games, you go from a 7-5 caliber team to 10 to 11-1. If they're 11-1, they're in.
Right.
Well, they may be in the conference title game, but even if they're not, yeah, especially if there's chaos elsewhere. You tell me a committee member doesn't get romantic about the possibility of putting Nebraska in the playoff? These are human beings. Absolutely they would.
100%.
So there you go. Klatt and Josh Pate. Rhule year 2, the Rhule year 2 principle, +5 in the win column from the previous year. Man, that'd be pretty cool for Nebraska fans and the Big Red this season. Let's hear about Dylan Raiola. No tiptoeing, cut 5. How are they going to go with the freshman?
No, we're not thinking that way at all. No. I'd rather lose the first game than the last game. So we're not going to ease into it. We're going to play. Yeah, Dylan's going to play. He's going to play the plays, right? He's going to, when we call drop back, he's going to go back there, take his drop, go through his progression. Just how we want him to play when he's a junior. We're going to start day one that way. We're not easing into anything.
So is that typical with a freshman, or is it a Dylan Raiola 5-star thing. Cut 6. Why does he feel that way?
It's a great question. So I don't mean to demean it, but just this is where I'm at right now. This is just where I'm at. I mean, I don't know if I'd be like this with anybody else. I don't know. This is just where I'm at. This is how I feel.
Okay. You've seen a lot of football, dude. I'll say go for it.
Yeah, to me, those two clips read into, like, I have a lot of confidence in this guy, but I don't want to put too much weight onto his shoulders before the first game. It's like, hey, personally within the building, we have a lot of confidence that this guy can go out and execute what we'd expect any quarterback to go out there and execute. We're not going to take anything off his plate, but at the same time, I'm not going to get in front of the media and put any sort of lofty expectations on him that he doesn't need before his first ever start in a collegiate game. That's my read into those two comments. Like, I don't know why we're going to do it this way, but we are. I'm not sure if I'd do it with anybody else. That's me. Completely him saying, like, I have the world of confidence in Dylan Raiola, but let's not put his expectations way up here before his first start.
He's been very clear all the time when he's been asked about his freshman quarterback and this race, this job, with what their expectations are. And the expectation is to go make plays that are there to be made. First and foremost, take care of the football. But it never once has been about him going John Wayne and having to do it all by himself. Okay? There's confidence that there's help around the guy. How much help? We'll look into that a little bit more from Matt Rhule. Tim Verghese, Inside Nebraska, next.
Hail Varsity Radio is live. Now, back to Schmitty.
Schmitty's a great guy, but he don't have a brain.
And Elijah.
You want me to speak? We're not pointing you yet.
On Hail Varsity Radio.
Great to have you on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Tim Verghese with us, Inside Nebraska Rivals.com, at Tim Verghese. On Twitter, ready for a season of Big Red football, recruiting and analysis. We'll get to some recruiting thoughts in a moment. But, Tim, good to spend some time with you. Thanks for joining us. Real quick, man, what's your takeaway? What'd you think of the depth chart?
Yeah, again, not a whole lot of surprises, I think, with the ones. I think the biggest surprise for me, or biggest takeaway, I think Amari Sanders just being on the 2 deep as a true freshman who came in the summer, kind of says a lot about what he's shown the staff so far this year. And I think the other big notable one for me, sticking with DBs, Kobe Brett's kind of working in that rover spot. Kind of fascinated by him. I really liked him coming out of high school, and kind of thought he'd put it together a little faster, but kind of good to see it's finally starting to come together for him.
Tim, any names you circled as guys that you followed on the recruiting beat that are especially intriguing to you making it on the 2 deep?
Yeah, again, like Brett's is one, just because the whole time I feel like I was banging the table because I was an intern when Brett's was coming out, and I have the whole time, every time I went to go see them play, I was like, hey, I know everyone wants Vontae Dickerson, but that kid, that safety's real good, and I think I like him better as a pound-for-pound football player.
What's your
take? Done.
What's your take as we keep it in the defensive back room? Amari Sanders, freshman out of Florida, making it the backup spot behind Tommy Hill. Not a name that I think was mentioned a lot in the spring, but it's a name that we've heard thrown around a couple different times here during the fall.
Yeah, thrown around the fall because he just didn't come in the spring. He didn't come on campus until the summer. So they just hadn't seen him. And but I think the staff knew what they had in him. A guy from South Florida that plays up, played at Gilbert Prep, plays against some of the best down there. The guys that litter college football now: Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Innes, Carnell Tate. That's just Ohio State's starting wide receiver room right there. But on top of that, it's guys across that South Florida region. JoJo Trader, he's now at Miami. He's in the 2 deep over there. He's gone up against Jaylen Brown. He was starting for Florida State on Saturday. But these are the guys that Amari Sanders was going up against week in and week out down in South Florida. And that type of preparation gets you ready for that. The path to playing time is so much easier when you're already playing D1 competition week to week the way he has been.
Let's focus in on the 305 as Rhule shouted out last week. Shaver, Barney, Sanders, McGahee, the fourth. Those are all kids. You just touched on why you want to go get kids from South Florida, because of their skill set and ability from high school and how it translates to college. Overall, Tim, and I know things got to happen on Saturdays on the grass or turf till it turns into grass, but overall, has Nebraska's rep been enhanced or rekindled by this staff, or was it more about some of the staff's or previous staff's connections, previous staff being folks that used to be on staff under Rhule that are no longer?
Yeah, connections was a big thing, but I think now that you have a couple South Florida guys on campus, you have this opportunity now to show them, hey, there's a path to playing time here. Like, for example, Jordan Campbell, he's a 2026 four-star linebacker committed to Miami right now. He's visiting for the Colorado game, and it's one of the few visits he has planned. And he and Vincent Shavers are very close. And so the fact that Shavers is probably going to play a good bit that game and going to be like active that game, I think the fact that Nebraska's going to be able to show that to Campbell and be like, hey, listen, if you come here, you can have a similar type of impact as a freshman. We like playing South Florida kids. There's other guys on staff that have connections down there. And the cool thing about South Florida kids is, for the most part, like everyone knows somebody or everyone knows everybody kind of down there. Like Dwight Boodle is like a guy that, and if you were to rank South Florida prospects in the cycle he came out of, he'd be in like the 20s or 30s. But he played with the South Florida Express 7-on-7 team, a powerhouse team down there. So he's got a bunch of connections where he was able to help Nebraska pull in some of these guys that joined this last cycle, Ja'Cory Barney, Vincent Shavers, those type of guys, just because his connections down there. And now you have Shavers and Barney on staff. Both those guys have connections of their own. They've been helping out when Nebraska had Antonio Branch and Cortez Mills on campus. I'm writing it up right now, and I'm kind of breaking it a little bit to y'all, but we'll have it up tomorrow. But I just was texting back and forth with Cortez Mills this weekend. He's considering making some visits this fall, potentially taking another look at some schools. Nebraska's one of those schools that's still in dialogue with him, hoping to get that one of those visits from him this fall. And so, I don't think that pipeline's closed. I think Nebraska's going to be a little more selective down there just because they don't have the relationships they once did. Evan Cooper and Philip Simpson were your best two relationships down there. But the fact that you can show guys down there that, like, hey, you come to Nebraska, you have an opportunity to play very early, and you're going to be taken care of, and you're going to be surrounded by guys that are familiar with where you're from and understand what it's like to come from where you're from.
Yeah, with that in mind, people from South Florida making their way up to Lincoln and kind of making it more comfortable for those guys. Are we prepared to call Lincoln the South Florida of the Midwest?
Feels like it.
Actually, I had this discussion with our South Florida guy here at Rivals, because obviously that's an area we just have one guy that just covers the whole. We have to, focus in on that region. And, he kind of mentioned, like, outside of the state of Florida and some of the states right nearby, like Georgia and Bama and stuff like that. If guys leave the state now, it's like, there's a short list. It's like Wisconsin, Syracuse, Nebraska, Louisville. Like, it's like 4 or 5 schools that guys really go to. But Nebraska's very much in there as a school that has some familiarity down in South Florida. And guys are like, Nebraska, they make an offer down there, and it's taken note of by the players that land the offers and their teammates.
Tim Verghese with us inside Nebraska. It's Hail Varsity Radio at Tim Verghese on Twitter. Tim, let's talk a little bit before we get into some of the visits. I want to get your take on the matchup against UTEP and Coach Rhule. We heard last segment not easing into anything with his 5-star quarterback, Dylan Raiola. They're going to let it fly. Figuratively and literally speaking, they're not going to baby him. Reaction to that, and what's that say to you?
That's not very surprising, but I will say I think it just, like, I leaned over to I think it was Zach or Steve or whoever I was sitting next to at the press conference, and I was like, what he said about Dylan's, like, it's saying a lot without saying much. It's just like, again, he has complete faith in him to run the offense, has complete faith in him to make the right decisions, play in and play out, be able to call his own checks at the line and kind of do what he needs to do to let the offense hum. And so the keys are in his hands, I think for everybody involved, that's a very good thing. It's a good thing for the offense. It's a good thing for recruiting. It's good for a lot of different reasons. You kind of have this runway, at least of this game specifically, to kind of get some of these mistakes out and kind of figure out what you want and don't want, moving forward. out of him and, kind of let him kind of work through seeing the field as a college quarterback for the first time. And this is a good opportunity. I think UTEP, I think Nebraska's probably going to win comfortably, but I also think UTEP is an opponent they can necessarily sleep on. They run a ton of plays. They're a very fast team. I've got a ton of respect for Scotty Walden as a play caller. I think he's one of the smartest just minds in football right now. You go back and watch some of the stuff he's done in the past. You look at the team he's constructed. He's just got a good vision for the future, and I don't think he's long for UTEP. Not even a diss at UTEP. It's just kind of, I think he's a rising star in the industry, and I think he's got a P5 job here in the next 4 or 5 years.
Tim, if you had to forecast it right now, you look at the wide receiver room. It's always great for a freshman quarterback to have a guy that he can rely upon. To the old meme, F it, Tyreek's down there somewhere, or Trey Palmer's down there somewhere. Just that guy you can chuck it up to and all else fails. Who do you think that guy is for Dylan Raiola this year?
I think it's safety. I actually think there's a couple ways you can approach it. Because I think his safety blanket is going to be Thomas Fadoni. But if you're like a chuck it up there, he's down there, it's got to be Isaiah Neyor or Jalen Lloyd. Which I don't know which one of those two. But if you're talking about just chuck it up to one of those guys down there, it's one of those two. But I think Dylan's also the type that's going to have a safety blanket, a guy that when all else fails, he's going to check it down to him. I think that's going to be Fadoni or Jamal Banks. And then on the other side of it is when it's all right, I need a deep play, I need a big play, I'm just going to chuck it up. It's going to be to Neyor or Lloyd. What
do you feel about the running back room?
Ooh, don't have a great feel there. I kind of called we did our breakout player predictions over the weekend, and my breakout player is Dante Dowdle. I just believe, just from what I heard from him coming out of Mississippi, and then what we heard coming out of Oregon. He left Oregon on relatively good terms. That staff is still very optimistic about his future. And you go back and read what they wrote about him. You go watch some of the film of what he put on tape at Oregon in the limited snaps he got. A guy that runs through contact, is fast, has that separation speed, has a little bit of everything you want in the backs. When you look at that room as a whole, you see a Ramir is a change of pace back. Emmett's a bit of a change of pace back that can run between the tackles. Gabe is solely a guy that can kind of run between the tackles, create a little bit after the fact, but he's not hitting, he's not housing it from 50, 60 yards out. Dowdle can kind of do a little bit of everything, where he can run between the tackles, runs with the intentions to punish, and then once he's through the second or third level of the defense, he's got the long speed to kind of separate downfield as well. And as we saw in the spring game, can house it from 40, 50 yards out.
Tim, before we get you out of here, we may keep another segment, we may not. I don't know. That's up to.
I think we go a little OT with Tim. Why break tradition?
It's become tradition at this point. It has. I want to get your thoughts though on the biggest concern that you have after seeing the depth chart today. What's the area that makes you go, ooh, I don't know?
O-line depth. I'm just not super comfortable with some of the guys on the two deep just right now. And I think Nebraska themselves, I don't think they're super comfortable with that two deep either. I think the interior of the line is strong. I think that interior is going to have even beyond the starters. I think they've got some good depth there, but the tackle spots are a little concerning for me, I would say.
Which way's the wind blowing with the kicking competition here about 60 seconds before a quick break?
Oh man, I can't call it. I don't think Matt Rhule can call it. I think we all saw him at the press conference today. It seemed like he's a little that's something that's concerning him. I think it's going to be Alvano for the first kick, just because I think they're going to stick with the in-state guy and give him an opportunity to kind of basically show until you can't that you can be the guy. And this is a good opportunity to kind of get his feet wet and maybe get him comfortable. And if you need to make a decision, you can do it at the end of this or next week.
All right, hang tight. Tim Verghese, some overtime with Tim from inside Nebraska Rivals. Who's checking out the Big Red for UTEP? Who's checking out the Big Red? Who's RSVPing already for Under the Lights, Nebraska, Colorado? Tim will talk some recruiting and maybe a little bit more about this upcoming season. Moonbot is here. He's bid in. Andy Harris checks in and wants 5 Elk Creeks. He needs something right now. More with Hail Varsity and Tim Verghese on the way.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Some overtime with Tim Verghese inside NebraskaRivals.com at Tim Verghese on Twitter. Some recruiting and UTEP thoughts with Tim, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Thanks to you for checking us out on the Hail Varsity Radio Network. Hail Varsity YouTube, like and subscribe there. Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Both ways to watch the show. Can hear us along the Hail Varsity Radio network. Tim, some big names RSVPing, my friend, for Nebraska, Colorado. Before we go there, any names, local or outside the state, that are looking at UTEP?
Yeah, I'd expect a couple. I think UTEP, the way they're looking at it, they've sent some game day invites out already. Kind of looking at some of the guys in state. They got a 2027 lineman from Blair, or offensive lineman / defensive lineman from Blair, Nebraska, coming in. That's a guy that they're monitoring a little closely. I think it's Ty Tessendorf. The name's slipping me off the top of my head. But they're hoping to have Tessendorf in town this weekend. Braylon Warren, son of Steve Warren, at Warren Academy. He's a 2027 quarterback at Omaha Westside. He's going to be starting there. Might not be a household name for a lot of people right now. By the end of this football season, I think he will be, just because of what I think he's going to do at Westside this year. They're going to keep the train rolling, and he's stepping into that QB1 role. I saw him a bunch this offseason. I'm a huge fan of his, and I think his upside's significantly high, so he's expected to be there. And then a new name that we added to the list today, Cameron Wagner. He's a 2027 O-lineman out of Illinois. That's a guy that EJ Bartell kind of found when he was making his rounds back in the spring, and has maintained contact. Nebraska hasn't offered yet, but early on he's regarded as one of the top, if not the top, 27 offensive linemen out of Illinois for that cycle, and so Nebraska's hoping to get him into town. I'd have him on offer watch this weekend. I think he leaves town with an offer from Nebraska once Matt Rhule gets eyes on him. But that's the three right now. I'd expect a couple of local guys in, the typical, like the local commits. I think Jackson Carpenter, Tyson Terry, Pierce Newberry, Caden Vermont, those guys will be back in town. Those guys are back the week after as well to help peer recruit. They'll be in town, plenty this season.
It's Tim Verghese with us here. And Tim, as we fast forward to Colorado week, that might be the crown jewel type week for recruiting. Jackson Cantwell, the 5-star offensive lineman, sounds like he's in. What names are you going to be monitoring for that weekend?
Yeah, Cantwell's a big one, just getting him back into town. He's the headliner of the weekend. We're monitoring kind of a somewhat active situation with Michael Terry. He's kind of made it known that Nebraska-Colorado is a game he's circling to get back to. But at the very same time, Texas is trending. I wrote a couple of weeks ago, I've got a strong source that still believes that he's planning to shut things down before the season even gets started. But he has said himself, he's like, I want to push this to the season. So we'll see who wins out here at this point, just because it's kind of two schools of thought right now in terms of, if you can kind of read between the lines here a little bit. Texas has kind of put up an offer to kind of shut things down and hope that he can shut things down right now. But Nebraska's fighting as hard as they can to keep him uncommitted and hopefully kind of sway him towards Nebraska. We'll see what happens there. But Terry's another one. If he makes it into town, that would be significant for Nebraska's chances there, and also would be a significant visit just in general, because he's never seen a Memorial Stadium at full capacity. Brandon Arrington, the 4-star athlete out of Mount Miguel in California, he's back in town. Keenan Harris, 4-star linebacker out of St. Louis. He's a top linebacker out of the Missouri. He's a top target for Rob Dvoracek. And you're looking ahead to 26, kind of one of those must-get guys pretty early on for Nebraska. They're battling Missouri, Oklahoma, USC, Oregon, et cetera for him. So there's a couple schools out there, or a couple guys out there. Those are some of the headliners. I've got a full list, or at least an early list of guys I've already confirmed coming out tomorrow. I think it's 20 deep already. Some early 2027s on the list already as well. Jordan Frohock, I wrote today. He's a receiver from Texas. Nebraska was his first offer. He's going to see, the program for the very first time. Samaj Stanford is a safety out of Oklahoma. Nebraska really likes him, and he's a guy that a coach in Oklahoma texted me that they were like, when it's all said and done, I think Samaj Stanford is going to be a top 5 defensive back in the country. And so that says a lot about his talent and kind of what they see from him.
Tim, how important do you think the first couple weeks will be in terms of success for the football team on recruiting? I ask because today, Georgia Tech, they took down obviously number 10 Florida State on Saturday, and then today they get a flip from high 4-star defensive lineman Christian Garrett from Georgia. And you tie some dots, you're like, oh, beat Florida State on Saturday, you get the flip on Monday. Maybe that means something. I think you get what I'm picking up what I'm putting down here. How important do you think the first couple weeks will be for Nebraska here recruiting-wise in terms of showing this 2025 class, you know what, we're not going to be successful somewhere down the road. We're going to be successful now.
Yeah, I think it's important, like really important for 2025 specifically. I think finishing strong is the key with the 2026 recruits. But with 2025, you have to have a strong start to the season. And, whether or not that includes a win over Colorado, I don't think it necessarily matters as long as you play them close. That first month, though, I think it's important to start at least 3-1, 4-1 at the start of the year, just because, you've got guys like Christian Jones that really want to see Nebraska show some success on the field. Cortez Mills wants to see, can Nebraska, what's Nebraska going to do on the field? Are they going to air it out with Dylan Raiola? Michael Terry's looking for the exact same thing. So there's a couple guys that I think the key remaining 25 targets, the reason they're remaining, I would say, is because the one question they want answered is, can Nebraska show that they're heading in the right direction, that they can be successful? And I think a strong start to the year, regardless of how you finish, a strong start to the year can kind of be the final box that gets checked for some of these remaining 25 targets.
Tim, is there a chance that Jones may find his way to Lincoln for the Colorado weekend?
Oh, certainly. He has not been able to confirm one way or the other with me just yet. We've been texting back and forth, but I think there's a very strong chance that that's where he ends up that weekend, if he ends up making a visit that weekend. I think there's only like 3 schools really involved right now, and namely, it's only mainly Oklahoma and Nebraska right now, but Miami lurks, Wisconsin lurks. There's some room. I'm curious to see kind of what happens moving forward. I'm sorry, I just got a text, but I'm curious to see what happens with him moving forward. But yeah, I'm expecting. But yes, I'm expecting Jones to be back at Nebraska at least once in the coming month or so.
Tim Verghese, you answer that text. Tim will holler next week. Appreciate you as always, man. Tim Verghese, Inside Nebraska Rivals.com, at Tim Verghese on Twitter. Tim, be good. We'll see you on Saturday.
Yes, sir.
All right, there he is, Tim Verghese. Good to spend a few minutes with him. 20 deep, man, for that Colorado-Nebraska Saturday night party under the lights.
I know some Husker fans that'll be 20 deep by kickoff as well.
Wow. Just 20. Again, pacing oneself. Remember the moment Prime and Company come to town, though first things first, it is UTEP, Nebraska. We'll get to more of your comments in the stream here before we wrap up this first hour. Coach McBride in about 15 minutes. We'll talk with Uncle Charlie. Thoughts on the 2024 season and this first ball game. Jay Moore with Big Red Wrap-Up. Husker Standout going to join us in hour 2 as well. We'll try and sneak in some more Coach Rhule as he met the media. Plenty to talk about with the offense, the playbook, prepping for UTEP. UTEP's monster edge rusher, 7.5 sacks a year ago off the edge. How does that look Saturday for Nebraska? We'll hit it all. Hail Varsity continues on a Monday, and we're powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, Hail Varsity Road Show this college football season. Excited to be at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill in Gretna this Friday, 4 to 6. Incredible pizza kitchen there, and you're going to love the patio, and it's not going to be 1,000,000,000 degrees. So get yourself a Cornhead Lager, whatever you like, and order a slice of pie and relax. Come see us Friday, 4 to 6, and Thursday this week to get your weekend going at the Single Barrel inside the Garage. You want a monster steak? You want 200 whiskeys to choose from? Hey, Single Barrel's where you got to be. Thursdays. We're there Saturday as well. Pre-game weekend edition is from 11:30 to 1:30. So if you're in town for Nebraska-UTEP, come see us at the Single Barrel Saturday, 11:30 to 1:30.
And one thing we have not explored for Friday, Schmidt, you mentioned the patio at the Gretna location of the Hurrdat Sports.
Can we do a show on the patio?
I think we can.
Okay.
I don't see any. If we can do a show on a boat, we can do a show on a patio.
Hey,
what's the difference?
Men. Yes.
Let's figure it out. I think,
okay.
I mean, the weather looks fantastic.
It does
on
look
Friday
incredible.
afternoon.
shaded, comfortable. And they've got those garage doors at the Hurrdat Sports Bar Pizza Kitchen that, I mean, you're familiar with like the open air setup some places have, where the garage door comes up and it's just open air. It can walk indoor or be outdoors.
I'm saying, I think we should explore the idea of doing a patio show on Friday.
Okay, patio show done.
It's not all that long that we get to spend outside in the months of June through September in Nebraska.
You will pull the patio card if and when it is flurries and wind chill. But they have, to be fair, they have fire pits out there.
Yeah, and
multiple fire pits.
Even if it is hot on a Friday afternoon, after the weekend I've had, I'm acclimated. I'm ready to go for some warm shows.
Elijah's self-punishment for football season has been, well, the AC is going to go down. 94 bleeping degrees. How many beers did you have to pound to go to bed?
Next question.
Okay, that's a pleading the fifth moment. I like it.
Not that. I think I made it through like a 6-pack this weekend. Not
a 6?
Nothing significant.
Dude, I went out Saturday and had a vodka, had just to stay hydrated on the course I was on. I was playing golf, and it was a 3-hour front nine, just slammed with people. And that was a little frustrating. We had a beer by number 7. Iowa Russ killed me. Anywho, then a vodka. I had some wine Saturday. Our old boy Trevor said, here's the wine you need to start getting into.
On the course?
No, this was for Bunny's birthday dinner.
See, if you're drinking wine on the course, that's a new level of pinky in the air.
So you're telling me I got a problem?
That's a lovely 10-year Pinot.
It's for my heart. It's for my heart. It's to help my putting. Reminder to get buckled up. In all seriousness, we go from talking and joking about alcohol to buckling up, because you got to do it. Not only is it the law, but let's just be honest, you want to be safe and alive for Saturday. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries only if properly worn. Make it click. A message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. So, Joe checks in, says Nebraska's got to fork out for a tackle or two in the NIL world. Question about TJ Lateef. Justin was asking, are things still looking good with TJ? I think Nebraska's all good there.
He didn't tell Chad Simmons today he's still locked in for Nebraska.
Which is good, which is nice. Uncle Charlie on the way. Season is here. It's game week. Great to be with you. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
Great to have you in. It's Hail Varsity, Hour 2. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And find and watch the show on YouTube, Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Going to keep hammering that for you. Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Always along the Hail Varsity Radio Network. Lincoln, Omaha, Kearney, Hastings, Grand Island, Columbus. Without further ado, we welcome in Mr. Blackshirt. It's a Monday with Charlie, part of our Blackshirt Hour. Excited to say hi to Coach Charlie McBride. Him and Jay make up the Blackshirt Hour as we get rocking here. Coach, the season is upon us. It's UTEP week. How we doing?
Oh, I'm getting ready. I got my TV warmed up, but it's good. It's going to be a good year, and everything's going to work out real good.
There you hear it. Just get to the sports book and be happy. Coach said it's going to be all okay. You know what, Coach? I believe you. I believe you this time, and I hope folks believe us this year, because we've you know what? It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right, ... But what makes you feel good about this season specifically?
If everything they say about the players, it's hard to tell when you're not there. But it sounds like they're really focused in the right direction. At least the majority of them. I think the younger ones might not understand it right away until tomorrow, till Saturday. They'll find out that it really means something. I mean, it's a little more than they thought it would be. So, that's what usually happens. And there's some kids that already know it, that they have a good idea, like Rhule and some of those kids that have been, experienced with their dads and things like that. They usually have a pretty good idea what's gonna, how it's gonna work.
It's Charlie McBride with us here on Hail Varsity Radio as we get you geared up. Nebraska-UTEP on Saturday. It's game week Monday with Coach Charlie McBride. And Coach, as you discuss some of the news of the week, the big news today was that Nebraska's first two deep of the year. That depth chart was released. I want to get your thoughts. How much weight should we as the media put into the two deep following a fall camp? I guess in your own mind, from your own memories, how fleshed out is the depth chart at this point in the year?
Well, in listening to a lot of the talk that they're going to play a lot of kids. Mm-hmm. They're going to play. I think their chart comes out 3 deep. Mm-hmm. I remember last year they only had one at the slot and on offense, and so I don't know what they have this year, but I'm sure they have more because of the receiver core they got. But that's pretty. Pretty. I remember it stays the same, unless something happens injury-wise, and then you start moving people around a little bit, and still you may have, early you may have a few guys change position, to strengthen the defense or the offense either way, and so that's the thing you're looking at, but. I think it's pretty sound. Usually what they put out is pretty much what the kids are thinking and everybody else. They may have some ideas about guys that are going to slip in there or something like that, but that would be just the coaches talking, and getting together and deciding that. But I think they're pretty good. I think that the depth chart you can rely on.
Charlie McBride with us. Say Monday with Charlie. It's game week. It's Nebraska. It's UTEP. Coach, you had Coach Rhule talk about Raiola today at the presser. They're not going to ease him in. They want him to go full bore. There's no kid gloves. That doesn't, to me, mean they're going to be reckless with him either. I mean, they want to go win ball games. That's the goal. That said, though, I like the fact Rhule said we want him better by the end of the year. Tell me a little bit about that attacking mentality you need to have as a coach.
Well, I think that other team will realize that the passes will be high percentage passes to start with. Okay. And of course that's how you say that. And the first play of the game will be a bomb. It's usually how it works. But I would, I'd think about that myself. But it's just something that you want them to start off with a positive note. And if you're going to do it by the book, you'll start out with high percentage passes and things like that. Play action, maybe they're going to run some play action stuff. Mm-hmm. I think they probably will. But that's not for me to say. But they'll stick with the something to make them feel comfortable, and as the game gets on, they get a little more threatening.
As a defensive guy that also knows the offensive line well, what can this offense do to defenses, Coach McBride, with the RPO element, that run-pass option element where it looks like a run, the linemen fire off like it's a run, the quarterback keeps it, and you're putting the linebacker in limbo theoretically, or somebody else defensively in limbo because you can just pull the ball and fire a quick pass. I mean, what kind of nightmare could that be for a defense?
Well, for a defensive coordinator, Charlie, not to cut you off here, that's the kind of play where you're looking at the ref and calling for an illegal man downfield every time, right?
He's grazing downfield 7 yards, right?
Well, in both cases, you'd be surprised what your defensive ends can do.
Okay.
Especially on the weak side. If they're rushing, if they're coming Hayaka, they're going to be in a passing lane for the guy on the outside.
That was good.
What do you laugh?
No, the term. I mean, I can just hear you say on the sideline, Hayaka, there goes old Grant off the edge, going to go kill somebody. That's what I'm laughing at. That's funny.
Well, that's better than the scalded dog going on. Hayaka is just a general term.
Yeah, no, I know. I thought it was good.
For crazy people.
Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
I don't know what. It has a lot to do with is the defense that they're playing. A lot of times you got a guy coming in the running lane, and I'll tell you what, if they throw the ball outside, and they're looking, and our kids have worked a lot on it, they could pick that thing and go. That's 6 in the pot, and right there, and so. There's so many things. I mean, I don't know what their defensive is, but you can bet your sweet dollar that's in their plans. And as far as getting to the quarterback or anything, the thing that happens the most, what we wanted to really put the pressure on the quarterback, because if he's got the ball, I mean, you want him to do something with it now.
Right.
And not let them carry the thing out or do that. We really were active with our defensive ends and doing different things. And we had we probably had 5 or 6 things they could do, and work with the tackle on some of the stuff, and where the tackle actually comes, where the end would be coming down and the tackle would be containing. And when he comes around the corner, he's in the right in the lane, right in the throwing lane. And for that particular play, when they're throwing it outside, and for some teams it takes time. I'll tell you, it'll take time for them to get it. They'll get it. They may get the play run against them. Okay, but the second or third time they're going to try it, they may end up giving up on the thing.
Sure.
So that's what you're trying to do right away. I remember Michigan State, we ran a stunt. They hit us with a cutback type play, and so we rushed our end and made him flatter. We had a stunt where we was flatter, and a guy cut back right into him, and that boy, he put him to sleep, and he was they didn't run that play again. And so sometimes when you get your hands on it, they're afraid to throw it again or run it again. Either way, if they're throwing it out of the run, then they're that's what can really stop it. Any time you can get in that lane and knock it down, it's big.
It's Charlie McBride with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And, Coach, as we talk about things and plays, RPO, stress in the defense, what stresses out a defensive coordinator? What leads a defensive coordinator to lose sleep in that final week before a first game? What are some things that, generally speaking, here are weighing on a defensive coordinator this week?
Well, not they don't know what they run. You don't know what the team runs when you're playing a team like this with a new coach. They don't even know what they're doing on defense. See, so they'll have to make some adjustments right away, right? I mean, they're going to maybe move the ball a little bit, and everybody's going to go, oh my God, but they've got to get adjusted, and the important thing is, can you make the adjustments on the move? Can you make them you don't wait till halftime. I mean, you got to make them now. or within reason. You got to do it right away. And that's kind of what we were able to do, and actually it was from the way we did it was experience. Guys all had experience at their position, and they had experience of what was run at their position. The throwing game, like George knew the throwing game, and all of the outside guys knew the outside screens, and the inside guys knew the inside screens, and it just goes down the list of what they can do. So each one of those people, has a lot to say about what is going to happen as to what area is being attacked. And that's just from guys working together.
Well, Nebraska really, really experienced on defense. They're experienced on the offensive line. I mean, that's a great point about the unknown, because UTEP is unknown. You can watch a lot of Austin Peay film with Coach Walden, and, I mean, Rhule made him sound like they're Bama today. I mean, honestly, like the stress level's up there. Like, man, they're coming here to win. It could be a pretty good tune-up, man. It could be a pretty good tune-up game Saturday.
Oh, they're coming here to win. I mean, there isn't anybody I know that comes here just for the money.
Not anymore.
Because that can start their program. I mean, and we've started a few programs before.
Over the years. Yeah.
But it's just the way it goes. I think right away, if you can make a statement right away on both sides of the ball, that solves a lot of problems.
Charlie McBride with us. Coach, we'll say goodbye. Excited to talk some football with you as the season is here, and we'll give you a holler next Monday if it works for Colorado Week.
And I do want to quickly get your thoughts, Charlie. What is the ideal menu for the first game of the college football season? You going wings?
He's going wings. Aren't you going wings?
What?
Are you doing chicken wings Saturday?
Oh, chicken wings. No, I'm not going to do chicken wings. I'm doing watermelon.
Okay.
Just watermelon?
No protein?
I tell you what, I had a little episode this week at the
gotcha.
hospital, so I'm going with what they're telling me.
Well,
so anyway,
we'll have a wing for you and tell you to get better. All right?
Oh, I'm doing okay, and I'm doing
good.
Fine. It's just I'm just an old man. That's what they want me to go there here. So I'm doing good.
Good.
There's worse sentences than watermelon, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good call. Coach, we'll holler next week for the Puffs, all right?
Do it, and popsicles.
Okay. Give Coach some ice cream and popsicles. I like it. Coach McBride, you take care. Thanks for the time.
Okay, guys. See you next week.
All right. See you.
Thanks, Coach.
Bye now.
There he is, Coach McBride with us here. Watermelon, good for him. Tasty this time of year. Get a Black Diamond watermelon, though.
Yeah.
Those are incredible.
I was hammering a lot of popsicles this weekend, so I'm right there with them.
Did you have like one in each hand, and then did you have like 2 or 3 on your forehead as you're laying down?
Popsicle left hand, beer right hand.
Okay.
Fan right in front of me.
Sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, you and the Pops with that 91-degree interior temperature at the Casa de Herbel house. Well,
I've heard reports from my roommates indicate that we're not there yet, but we are much cooler than we were this morning.
Okay,
so that's a win.
That is big time. Heat advisory in these parts till 8 p.m. So we'll say hi to Jay Moore. He's coming up. The Blackshirt Hour continues. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it, it's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Blackshirt Husker NFLer Jay Moore. You'll see him tomorrow night. Big Red wrap-up. The season is here. As we were talking, Jay Bird at JMoore44, enough speculation, let game week happen. How you feeling, man?
I feel good. I'm excited. Just August flew by, but for some reason I felt like to get to game time, game week. It's been a minute, but I'm excited. I'm tired of speculating, hypothetical situations, win totals. Just finally, it is fun to speculate at times, but you want to get down to some substance, right? And to see what this product's going to look like in 2024. I think majority of us think it's going to look vastly improved, a much better product. But until you actually see it and go through it, and a lot of it's word of mouth and hearsay and whatever it is, right? Whether it's coming from coaches, players, after practice, press conferences, it's time to show, what they've done this past spring, this summer, and in fall camp. And it's time to put a better product on the field and get back to winning ways.
Jay, is it harder as a fan or as a player, those final few days before the first game, the anticipation's up there as a fan? You really got nothing you can do with that. At least as a player, you have preparation you can do. Is it easier or harder as a player or as a fan to gear yourself up and wait those final few days before a first game?
It's tough. I think as a player, you're so ready to play someone different. You're tired of going against the same guys in practice, for the last month. So, I think it's probably a little easier as a player just because it's just once you get to game week, finally game prep, it's just so much more enjoyable. It's a change of scene, right? And it's an opportunity to, kind of switch, a different switch on of, okay, all this hard work we've put in the last, 6 months going back to spring ball, and now it's time to go and prepare and do it the right way. But as a fan, I think it's a little harder. I think it's always harder as a fan because nothing's really in your control. I take losses way harder, honestly, as a fan than I did as a player. And some people might think that's crazy. I just do it because you can only control what you can control as a player, and you put everything into it. And if it goes your way, great. If not, it's like, well, you're tired, you're exhausted, and you got to get ready for the next opponent, just a day or two later. So you got to switch your focus as a player. But I think this time now, I think as a fan, it's hard. It's the anticipation, everything. And but I just we're getting ready for our tailgate, and we got our own game planning to do as fans as well to get ready for that 2:30 kickoff on Saturday.
Jay Moore's with us, Hail Varsity Radio at JMoore44, Big Red wrap-up. So, Jay, I wanted to touch on a few things from Coach Rhule. We heard some of his comments in hour one. But first and foremost, the PIA opponent, pain in the ass. UTEP sounds like that big time with all they can do, the familiarity despite the transfers. 11 dudes following Coach Scotty Walden to UTEP between tempo and then what they do defensively. There should be some familiarity because of what Nebraska's seen with their own defense. But, are you expecting this thing to be a little butterfly/jittery for this team, or do you think they come out ready to release the fury?
Yeah, I'm not totally, up to speed yet on UTEP, but I know they'll do some exotic stuff from offensive sets and do some different things to kind of muddy things up, whether it's tempo or, guys, all 11 guys walk around on defense, try to create chaos because they don't have they have the talent, but it's just hard to, just get it all together and make it work. So I feel like it could be a rather slow start. You just it's tough, man. When these first games, you haven't played. And I'm just from UTEP's perspective or from Nebraska's perspective. I don't care if Nebraska is a 27.5 or 28 point favorite. You got to kind of ease your way into it. I know they want to. I know they want to get out there and hit the ground running, but you're going to have hiccups. You're going to have things, timing being off. It's just the first game. You got to get over the jitters and just everything that goes along with playing a different opponent. It's not another guy in a red or white jersey across from you like it's been the last month. So I imagine it's going to be off to a little slow start, and there'll be some rumbling every now and then. But I got to imagine, the cream will rise to the top, and the players that we have are going to beat their players, and it should be, I think, a rather comfortable second half.
Jay,
I hope it should be a rather comfortable second half. I should say that.
Jay, any game that has the potential to be a comfortable second half, a game that Nebraska can run away with, what minor mistakes do you look at as those are fixable? What minor mistakes would give you cause for concern in the first game?
I think always cause for concern is turnovers. That those show up again, because obviously that was the Achilles heel of this team last year and really this program for decades now. Some penalties are fixable. Alignment penalties, those can be fixed. You're going to have some, the ones that I don't get too worried about are guys, playing a little aggressive. You don't want to do anything stupid, hitting guys way out of bounds or whatever it is. But really, it's the stuff that hurt us last year, and that's the penalty, not penalties, but the turnovers. You're going to have penalties. There's going to be some sloppiness in the first game. There always is. I think, things I look on that I think this team should be good. It needs to improve on, the defense was so good last year, but there's something I want to see them improve on is getting off the field on third down. I think they got, they gave up a lot of third and longs in the middle of the field. They're damn good in the red zone when the field shrinks, but can they get off the field when, there's not so much constraints. But overall, I think if there's turnovers again, that's going to be a major concern, because that's just, you can't have it. It's too many of it last year. But you're going to have stuff. You're going to have your penalties. You're going to have drop balls. You're going to have missed tackles. But those things get fixed. And like I said, I've said before, the gap going from game 1 to game 2 is huge, and even more for game 2 to game 3. So you're going to. I would love to see a perfect game. There's no such thing as a perfect game. Like I said, they don't have preseason games. You got to work at the kinks out somehow, and it's got to be against UTEP.
Jay Moore is with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Jay, no plans on just dipping the toe into the deep end of the pool for Nebraska and Dylan Raiola at quarterback. They're going to go for it. Rhule was pretty adamant about that because he just feels like they can. They're not going to ease into anything. What do you think of that with Dylan? I mean, that's one approach, and I don't hate it. They've got to like what they've seen.
Yeah. I mean, you can say whether or not he can kind of say what he wants, right? In a presser, I still think they got to commit to running the football to get him comfortable. I know they've seen obviously a lot more than the couple practices I've been to, and the dude he's different. He's really good, but he's still 18 years old and has never played a meaningful snap in college football yet. So, but I get it. Like if you don't want to have the harness on and you want to let him go, then let him go, I guess. But I hope that there's some commitment to, running the football, managing the clock. I know the weapons are on offense there's some depth at every position: tight end, wide receiver, running back. So there's some weapons, some big bodies to throw to. There's some freaks of nature they got on the offense side of the ball that they can get the ball into their hands. But I don't know exactly what that looks like. Does that mean they're going to throw it 40 to 50 times? Does that mean they're going to do a bunch of different stuff? Maybe it's, maybe they're still running the football a lot and, leaving a lot of checks up to him, kind of controlling some things. Maybe they're calling multiple plays at the line of scrimmage, letting him get in and out of those plays, whatever it is. But it's obviously having him coming in early at the spring that helps the situation. And I'm excited, like I said before, I'm excited to watch him play. Just ready to operate, see his ability to handle stuff, handle some adversity, handle some poor series and how he bounces back from it, and just kind of create, right, and just see how he can do and stepping up in the pocket when things aren't there. How is his escapability? How's his running ability? How's his ability to throw on the run? All these things that you kind of seen in a spring game, but it's a spring game. So I'm looking forward to watching the young man operate.
It's Jay Moore with us here on Hail Varsity Radio, talking Nebraska-UTEP, as well as some thoughts as fall camp wraps up and the Husker football team into their game prep. And Jay, one thing from today, the depth chart was released, and an interesting little tidbit I was doing some research on before the show. I was looking into the walk-ons. By my count, 8 current or former walk-ons find themselves on the 2 deep on offense, defense, or special teams. I want to get your thoughts on Matt Rhule, the commitment, if you will, to the walk-on program, and that many guys finding their way onto the 2 deep.
Yeah, not surprised. Some of those guys have been in the program. Some guys are fairly young. It just comes down to getting the guys, the right guys in the field that are going to do it the right way. They might not be the most talented or gifted, but they're going to do it the right way, and you can trust them. That's the biggest thing you have to have as a coach to a player. Is I know if I put you out there when the lights are the brightest and you're in front of 90,000, that you're not going to freak out and forget what the hell you're doing, and you can still operate and get the job done. So those are what those guys have the ability to do. And whether it's from a special teams role or from a 2 deep in the offense or defense, you got to have trust, and you got to show it too. You got to be. Some of those guys played a little bit last year, but they showed up. They showed up in spring ball. They showed up in the fall, and they're consistent. And we've talked about the process before, and they've committed themselves to the process to be good and to be great and improve each and every day. Where some young kids, it's just hard for them to do. It's hard to be consistent. It's hard to show up every day when you're sore and tired, and you maybe are up late studying or doing whatever it is. But you got to be consistent. And whether you're a walk-on or a scholarship guy or a guy getting 6 figures in NIL, you got to be consistent in what you do in each and every day, and you got to have a commitment to being better every day. And I guarantee you, with those young guys and those walk-ons have fully committed to do that.
Jay, want to switch up a little bit from walk-on to a full stable of running backs that are all listed on the depth chart with or. Ramir Johnson, of course, 6th-year man out of Jersey, is leading the way there. He's probably your best pass blocker. He's arguably your best receiver out of the backfield, and he's a tough runner for his size. But do you feel like somebody can emerge, or do you think the committee can get it done if it stays committee this 2024 season? Rhule talks about 8 needing to turn into 80, having that big play in the run game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I love what Ramir's done in the past. Like you said, his ability to step up and pass pro to block, his ability to catch the ball in the backfield, and his ability to kind of get his foot in the ground and get vertical and be a one-cut guy and not hesitate too much has been really good. It was terrible that he got hurt last year. He's going to be huge for this offense. Obviously, Emmett Johnson stepped up big time last year when Gabe and Ramir were out. We saw what he's able to do from a young player, his ability to, provide some depth and some good runs. I mean, I just think of that run he had to seal the game against Purdue. That was big time for a young player. Still needs to learn how to hang on the football. He was part of the turnover issue last year as well. Then you get Gabe Urban, who we all know has the talents, but obviously been banged up. Had knee injury a couple years ago, had the hip last year. Has to stay healthy, but has all the bells and whistles to do it. Have more of a Big Ten style back, bigger, can get you those tough 3-4 yard runs that you need, especially when weather gets tough. And then get the Dowdell from Oregon. And again, another bigger back, similar build to Gabe, that just provides more added depth, because you're going to have guys get dinged up, your guys get banged up, and you kind of have to go with the hot hand with 1 or 2 when in some of these games. There's a feel, right? As a running back, you have to have a good feel, and that's a hard thing about getting a committee is if you're trying to play all these guys, can these guys get the feel? Can they get the how the offensive lines work and the timing of everything? So it'll be just kind of see how it all plays out. And obviously the type of game they want too. If it's they got a lead and they're going to run the football, who's it going to be? If they need to chuck it more and and pass more. You got to think Ramirez is going to be your guy to be back there. So just the evolution of the game and how it kind of plays out, I think is going to be solely dependent on who's going to be back there. But I got to wonder too if they're going to have a guy gets going, have a hot hand early, if they're going to keep him in there to keep it going. Because you can't, if you got a heater going, man, you can't step away from the table. You got to stay there and keep going.
Jay, in your eyes, whenever you look at a running back room from last year, that was just all right. Returns a lot of the same guys. You've added a new face in Dowdell. Is it a cause for concern that no one was able to differentiate themselves in fall camp, or is it a reason for optimism that the competition's so great that, you know what, there is no one that is emerging from this running back room because all the guys are competing so well?
Yeah, I can see that. Kind of 6 one way, half a dozen the other, right? So I think, I think Ramirez probably your pseudo one, your 1A, and they're probably, you have a 1B, 1C. I think Ramirez he can do it all. And he's in there. Any play can be ran. Sometimes you get certain backs in there, right? It's, hey, this guy is not good in blitz pickup, whatever it is, and you can exploit him a little bit. Or this guy's, your short yardage guy or whatever it is. So, no, I don't think it's not a huge concern. I think things will separate themselves as the year goes on. Because like I said, injuries or guys with a hot hand or guys just play better. And you just got to see how it plays out too. Once the games go, and how do guys, are they able to come in off the sideline after maybe not playing a series or two, or maybe a quarter, and can they do that? Can they adapt to the situation rather quickly? And maybe they can't. So maybe we have to hold them back. Maybe we have to play with these certain guys because they can do things after maybe being out for a series or two. These guys, if they do sit out for 3 to 4 series, they still have the feel, they still have the timing. Whereas some of these other guys, they might hesitate or they might just get a little bit lackadaisical after not being involved for 3 or 4 series. So it's going to be kind of I'm guessing a revolving door that we just don't know yet. But I think you kind of get halfway through the year, I think things will kind of be a little more solidified, I would guess.
Jay Moore's with us, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, Blackshirt Hour at Hail Varsity Radio at JMoore44 on Twitter. Big Red Wrap-Up where you watch him and all season Tuesdays on Nebraska Public Media. Jaybird, to wind it, let's talk Black Shirts. They'll make those announcements tomorrow. What defensive play are you most anxious to watch this season?
Oh boy, there's some good ones. Gosh, I don't know. The defense is gonna be really good. I think they're gonna be better than last year. But you just look across the board between the D line with Nash and Ty and I'm drawing a blank on the other guy's name. This is terrible.
Jamari.
Jamari
Butler. Butler did it.
Yeah. So, but even the guys behind him, Princewell, Cam Lenhart. I'd love to see MJ Sherman, what he's going to be able to do. You get some young linebackers back there with Bayer and Bullock, and then plus Thompson that came over from Syracuse. So this secondary is going to be really with Hill, Buford. It's going to be fun. I mean, Gifford. I don't know. I think I'm looking forward to watching Isaac play, man. I think he's special. I think his leadership ability is top notch. He's the guy. I think he's the sole leader of this team and this defense. So I think if there's a guy, even being a D-line guy, I'm excited to watch those three guys go to work, and some of the guys behind them, Van Poppel and the depth they have there, Judy. But I'm really excited to see Isaac kind of step up and take full control of this team and this defense. And I think he's going to be the kind of your bell cow when the plays need to get made in crunch time during the year. I think Isaac's going to step up for a TFL or a pick, whatever it is, and help kind of get things back on the track. So I think Isaac's my man that I think is I'm looking forward probably the most to watch.
He is absolutely the heartbeat. Blackshirt Husker NFLer Jay Moore.
And you'd expect nothing less from a Lincoln Southeast alum.
I was going to say a Nebraska kid, for sure. Yep. You get the old Southeast shout-out from Elijah Herbel.
You got 2 on the 2 deep from Lincoln Southeast with Derek Branch and Isaac Gifford, which I think is more than any other high school in the state of Nebraska.
Jay Moore with us. We'll check in next week. Jay, thanks for the time. Good to hear from Blackshirt Husker NFLer Jay Moore. Moonbot checks in. Come on now. I'm least excited about Gifford.
That's just disrespectful.
Well, I mean,
Southeast night. And I'm sitting here. It was more than two.
Giff's the guy that will, honestly, he is the voice, the respected voice on defense and throughout the team that Jay was talking about that is going to will this team to probably punching through the ceiling if he can stay healthy and build on it. And it's a family matter, right? I mean, it means a ton to the Gifford family and his brother's communication with him. If you're watching Chasing 3, Elijah, like, leave it better than you found it and keep it going.
And he steps into a job that, I mean, there's a ton you have to do from that spot, that fifth defensive back spot. You're just as important in run fits as you are defending against the pass. I mean, he's a linchpin on that defense. I will say I was wrong. It's 4 former Southeast Knights on the 2 deep. I forgot about Gunnar Gatula as well as the backup long snapper, Aiden Fledge.
Look at you. He's going to be wearing the letter jacket tomorrow, folks. We'll wind down on Monday at Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time at Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Road shows this week. Put down in your calendar Single Barrel Thursday here in Lincoln, 4 to 6. Friday, Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, Gretna location, the Pizza Kitchen patio show. And then on Saturday, Single Barrel Weekend Edition, Hail Varsity Radio, 11:30 to 1:30. Real Red Reaction follows. Following Nebraska-UTEP. Can't wait for it. Moonbot is starting Saturday with Bloody Marys. Not sure about the food. We will build up to what you eatin' as we get ready for Friday's show. But tomorrow, excited. Rick Pizzo, Big Ten Network, going to be with us. Matt Rhule, going to be on the program. And then Mitch Sherman will release the Fury from The Athletic. Excited to spend time with Mitch, Pizzo, and Verghese. Many thanks to Charlie McBride, Jay Moore for the Blackshirt Hour, and big thanks to Tim Verghese with Inside Nebraska and Rivals. Elijah, you've got some breaking news from North Dakota State. Their stud safety is done for a while pre-Colorado.
Yeah, he's out with a foot injury. It's Cole Wisniewski. There it is, Cole Wisniewski, who was NFL draft prospect last year. He was an FCS All-American. He'll miss significant time after a foot surgery. That's a tough loss. Your all-star defensive back before Colorado, who likes to air it out, plays you.
Brutal
it's a
loss.
That's a brutal one. We'll see what kind of, I guess, talent they have coming up through the pipeline. We'll see. I still don't think North Dakota State beats Colorado, even if they have the starting safety, but that's a tough loss.
Well, we'll have Barney on with us Thursday. What's the reality with this Buffs team? I mean, are they going to be high flying and win shootouts in the Big 12? Utah isn't about shooting out. They kind of like to just pound the hell out of you. Nebraska's going to want to be physical, and North Dakota State, that's their MO. I mean, respect level, yeah, you have more talent than North Dakota State, but are you willing to trade punches with them?
Well, I think they have a lot more talent than a lot of teams that are going to be playing this year. It's the questions to me are like the development that they have within the program. What's the mentality of that team? Because I think, like, from a talent point of view, the talent they've accumulated on that roster, new transfers being brought in, the guys they brought back from last year, they're a bowl team easily talent-wise. But it's a question of, to me, A, between the ears, what kind of mentality does that team have? And B, what type of development was done through fall camp to get these guys playing cohesively, playing like a team? That's the question to me. Get the podcast downloaded today. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Type in Hail Varsity Radio. Give us a review, good, bad, or ugly. We appreciate the feedback. Hail Varsity YouTube, where you can like and subscribe there. Watch the show on YouTube. Put her up on your TV. Or Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. Give us a follow there. Check the show out or rewatch on all 3 platforms. And we'll be back and be ready to do it again tomorrow. Excited to be in football season. Finally, as it is game week, more on UTEP, more from Mr. Tony. Coach White will meet the media. We'll hear from some players tomorrow. And we'll check in with Sat and this offense
all on the docket for you Tuesday, along with Pizzo, Verzel, and Mr. Mitch Sherman. Good enough. You go cool off.
Try my best.
Are you just going to take a cold shower for about 45 minutes if this thing isn't fixed?
I've been doing that all weekend. I think 45 cold beers might do it.
Elijah is turning to the Cornhead Lager early.